So that's a Sleestak, huh? Whew.
We should be good to start if you guys want to dive into episode 2.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I think that it's just important to say, like what I was saying last time, the fact that a thing that not many people know, I feel like, is the fact that it was episode 1 and 2 were actually wrote like as one script by David Gerrold, and then it was split into 2 episodes, and so really you can look at it as like a two-parter, and if you do look at it as like a two-parter to introducing the series, it's a really good, they both serve as really good introductions, because the first one obviously does all the dinosaurs, but this one introduces a lot of stuff. So, yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty interesting looking at it from that perspective, that in the finished thing, it's really established that it's been a while since the first episode. They talk about they say we've never come this way before for water, which sort of implies that they've been out to get water like many
And
times
exploring
before.
at least a couple times, right? Yeah.
Right, right. And then there's also they say they when they run into chocolate, they say, his leg's got to be well by now. So it must have been a while, you
Right.
know,
I mean,
for his
they
leg to
did say it
reheal.
was a like a minor fracture though, but still,
Right.
even a minor fracture with a splint, it would
So it takes a minute.
probably take like, I don't know, like 4 to 6 weeks. So
Yeah,
I think it's safe to assume, yeah, they've spent at least a couple weeks in the land, yeah. But yeah,
yeah,
we love that that continuity
yeah.
of the thing being on his leg. That's awesome. You got to think
It is cool.
all the kids who were watching that, who watched the episode live, then next week they're like, "Oh, I remember that." That's
Yeah,
good stuff. And I love that Will is like, "Ah, let's take this shortcut," and then Holly's like, "Yeah, no, we've literally never gone this way before." Yeah, Will,
yeah,
and then that's the second. That's one of 2 times in the episode where he acts like he knows where he's going, because then later on in the episode he's like, "Well, I know where we are. I just don't know
yeah.
where everything else is."
Everything else is
And I'm like,
right.
"Bruh, very very Will of you."
Yeah, that's a classic. The part about where Will says, "I don't think we're going to see Chaka again," sort of implying that he thinks that the Land of the Lost is like way bigger than it actually is. Um, or
Yeah,
at least
yeah, they probably haven't,
yeah,
fully gotten to the edges yet and like realized how small it is. Yeah.
right. It seems like they haven't like explored like barely at all. Like even like they haven't been over the gorge even, which is
Right.
pretty.
Yeah, because you can tell by their reaction that that was their first time. I mean, she says
Yeah,
it was their first time going that way, but then she like throws the rock in there. Yeah, and yeah, this episode, it establishes so many things.
Mhm.
One of them being Holly's fear of heights,
Yes,
because
true.
it starts with her being over the gorge, and she's like, let's get off of this thing, after she
Yeah,
throws the rock. And then when later in the episode, when they're dangling over the thing, she keeps talking about how far down it is, and she's like obviously more scared than Will is. And yeah, it's a good foreshadowing for episodes like Elsewin, when that's a really big
yeah.
plot point.
That's really good. I wasn't thinking about that, when I watched it. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, cause yeah, that's the very first time we ever see her be scared of heights. And also, we also get to see Big Alice for the first time. Establishes Big Alice
Yes.
as the protector of the Lost City. Even if I
Hmm.
say establishes Big Alice, but even though we don't actually get the name of Big Alice, because
Right.
they don't
Well, they
they don't
say,
they don't know. Yeah, but they don't know if it's a boy or a girl until
right.
another episode, until later. And that's another thing. I love that Holly is like her first thing is to name things always. She did it with Spike, and then she did it with Grumpy, and or no,
Spot too.
not Spike. I meant to say Spot.
Oh yeah. Well, they named Spike
But
too.
that,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
by
that
episode 2.
that's why I accidentally said it. Yeah, because Spike is also a person that, or a creature that is established in this episode. We see Spike for the first time in this one.
Interesting other thing they point out is, or interesting thing to point out is that they know who Spike is, in that episode. So they've already had like encountered Spike and
Right.
understand that he's a threat. So
Right.
they've had like encounters with him before, which is pretty interesting. I'm not
Whereas that is not the case with Alice, because
right.
that is the first time they see her.
I'm not convinced that there isn't more than one Spike. Um, actually, I'm pretty sure that there are others. I'm pretty sure there are multiples of like all the dinosaurs, save for perhaps Grumpy.
Right.
But like we know that Alice reproduced, so there's got to be other Allosauruses.
That is a very good point. I've always wondered who Alice had the baby with.
Right, right. And then, well, I think that Spike was on the other side of the gorge, right? Not the Sleestak side, the Pakuni side of the gorge.
Well, yeah, that's another interesting thing because
Yeah.
in this episode, I think that when they see Spike, it is on the other side, like on their side, you know. But I think throughout the series, they like show it on both, you know, which would lend itself to you know, your
multiple
theory of
Triceratops.
there being multiple. Yeah, no, that would definitely make sense. Yeah, but I do
There's
think
also
there probably is only one Grumpy though.
right. There's also they talk about when they bring Dopey back. Spoiler, I guess, for next episode.
Dun dun.
Um, when they or no, that's 2 episodes in.
No,
That's episode 4.
No, it's episode 3.
Yes, I thought that was downstream. No, downstream is 4.
Four
Right,
is downstream, yeah.
right, because Pakuni, Sleestak, dinosaurs, time is how it goes. Okay. So they do in Dopey. They talk about. They say. I remember Rick says, "Don't you think Dopey would be happier in the swamp with the other brontosauruses?" Um, heavily implying there are more, and also Dopey just hatched. So obviously Emily had to.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, Dopey is actually the only example that we get of on screen there being 2 of the same dinosaur, because we do see Dopey with Emily, you know.
Right. Other than Junior.
Right, and Junior, yeah, true.
Right.
Forgot about that.
And we also talk about Spot. You know, later in the series, when one of the spots gets eaten by the Land of the Lost, one of the spots gets eaten by Grumpy, and they establish.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and they establish that there are multiple of those too. So
Fact.
the point being, these are established species, which, going back to last episode, may also imply that they are again evolved, and they've been
From
specialized to
their
this
original
environment.
Earth counterparts, yeah.
Hmm.
Fact.
There are stable groups.
Yeah, I like that theory of yours. One thing that I found funny was the okay. Before I say that, I'll also say just the things that were established. Another thing that we see for the first time is the mirror. We see the mirror communication for the first time, which is really
Morse
cool.
code.
Yeah. And then, but what I was gonna say was, what is that the Rusty Sand place? That's a one timer. They never show that again. Most of the time with any given set, you're gonna see that another time. You know, like we see Beware of Sleestak multiple times. You know, and like most sets they reuse, but we never see the red sand place again. So that's funny. And also, that whole scene is kind of funny because it's like one of the only times they kind of do almost like slapstick humor, because you know they do the running across the side over and over again meme, and
Yeah.
it's pretty funny. And then in that scene, Will is like, well, Holly's like, maybe it's Chaka, and he's like, maybe it's Robinson
Crusoe.
And I'm like, bro, I never knew what that line meant, but I've looked it up before. It's a book from like the 1700s. It's like a really popular book, like called The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe. And apparently the meme is it was so popular that people actually in the 1700s thought that it was like a real person. So him saying, yeah, maybe it's Robinson Crusoe, is him saying like, maybe it's like Santa Claus, you know, that's the equivalent of what he's saying.
I see.
But a very interesting joke that would have gone over every child's head. I mean, it went over my head until I was like 17 and looked it up, you know.
Right.
So like, yeah, 9 out of 10 kids are not going to get what that means. So I feel like that's an example of writing something in for the parents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the creator of Thomas, damn it, I hate that I can't think of his name right now because I love Thomas. But the creator of Thomas said in an interview one time that the best kids shows are not demeaning to the children and are entertaining to the adults. Like
Yeah.
they slide stuff in for the adults to be entertained. And
Absolutely.
and yeah, that's in it. That's a good example of that.
That's one of my favorite things about Land of the Lost is that like it was so enjoyable as a kid, and it's still so enjoyable and an understanding of it,
It
as
treated the audience with respect, even if the audience was children. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Facts.
Here's another thing about Alice I want to mention. I thought it was pretty interesting that like, immediately, Will sees Alice and knows that it's an Allosaurus. I'm still not, well, no, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was meant to be an Allosaurus. But if you're familiar with your dinosaurs, which I know you guys are moderately familiar, that doesn't look like an Allosaurus, like, at all.
Right. Yeah.
Like, they're notoriously, like, they're pretty small theropods, and they have, like, horns above their eyes. That's, like, their whole thing,
right. That is interesting. I did not know that, but that kind of makes sense, because that kind of goes along with just the fact that they were working with outdated, models. That's what they thought an Allosaurus looked like. But that
I
is,
suppose, yeah.
but that is funny that you say that, because I've also thought the same thing. The fact that I feel like Will is very good at identifying dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
He knows his dinosaurs,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. He must maybe. I mean, shit. Kids love dinosaurs. He was probably
True.
maybe he went through a dinosaur phase when he was 7, just like we all did. But
Yeah.
it seems like the second he sees her, he's like, wow, that's a big Allosaurus, and he does that with like Spot also. He's like, he says the species,
Yeah.
and then he's like, it's omnivorous.
Coelophysis.
Yeah, even though it's not omnivorous, but
Yeah.
it seems to know his stuff.
Pteranodons, when he's referring to pteranodons in Dopey, he says that they eat animals and people, which
Right.
of course is not true. They're
Yeah.
pestivorous.
I was gonna say they eat fish.
Yeah.
If the classic animated show Dinosaur Train taught me anything, you guys know
Yep.
that one. That was a PBS show.
Yep. Did you guys get my message today about my teacher? Who was
No, I
in
don't think so.
I messaged the chat today. This is slightly unrelated, but I was talking to one of my teachers today, who I really like, and he was telling me he's a musical theater major, and he was an actor. He was one of the performers in Dragon Tales Live or something.
Yo.
Yeah, and I thought that was funny. Not directly related to Land of the Lost, but of course Wesley Year, right?
Yeah.
And he never met Wesley,
Right.
which I thought
But that's still awesome though.
it's still interesting,
Yeah, facts. I love Dragon Tales. I wish I didn't even know Dragon Tales Live was a thing. I would have loved that as a kid.
Yeah. Were you a PBS kid?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
PBS
That and
was awesome.
yeah, it really was. That and like DVDs from the library, which of course is Land of the Lost.
Right. Yeah. No, I saw Land of the Lost from reruns on some old TV channel. One of those channels that plays like classics. And
Yeah.
whenever an episode was on, I would record it on my cable box, and then it was great because it was always like the hunt for finding the new ones. So for like the longest time, I hadn't seen all of the episodes until I finally like did the research and found them online. I watched them all on YouTube. But when I was a kid,
That's so funny.
like I was always waiting to see which new episode I was gonna get.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's so neat. I love that kind of stuff. I was that way with you watch Arthur?
I have not.
Were you guys no. Ray, were you around for that?
For Arthur?
Was that your time?
Yeah, I mean, I think Arthur was on like 3:30 after school every day, pretty much. I mean, it would be good if we could watch Arthur. If we didn't, the stuff like the news would come on at 5. I know that every time. We'd get Arthur usually. We get Cyber Chase sometimes. I guess it just depended. But yeah, Arthur was our go-to.
I saw that one on. I never watched it as a kid though.
But yeah, I always watched that one. Yeah,
Um,
we had PBS, because we only had like the free stations, like we never had cable, just like the local ones, right? And we were always on 13.1, that was, or something like that. That was the PBS station.
Bro, with Dragon Tales, Dinosaur Train, so many classics.
yeah, seriously. Going back to the episode, let's talk about this. Um, the scene of the gorge. I never actually realized, but it implies that there's like a whole terrain that we haven't seen, a whole area of Land of the Lost that's yet unexplored.
What you mean?
You know?
You just mean the other side of the gorge, yeah?
Or no, I mean in the background of that scene, you can see the river
Oh yeah.
and the slopes, and there's like very clearly some like mesas back there that you can't see usually.
Right.
There's also the same thing, that's going to be coming up in downstream, where there's like some landscapes that we never see again,
Oh, I
which is
can't.
pretty
I
interesting.
cannot wait to dissect Downstream. That one is a fun
Downstream's
one,
going to be really fun.
especially for mapping. That one is great.
Yeah. And then David Gerrold, later in the show, talked about. I think that he's talked about how in the 80s, some like company approached him and was like, "Hey, we want to make Land of the Lost season 4, and we want it to be like Power Rangers." And he was like, "What does that even mean?" And they were like, "We want there to be a villain." And he was like, "Okay, I guess we can like put that in like some unexplored, corner of the valley." And which, and he eventually he was like, "I don't want to do this. This doesn't go with my original vision." But it does imply that there is more of the valley that we haven't explored.
Yeah,
If we're doing season 1 or season 2 or whatever.
that is interesting. Yeah, I did not. I didn't think about the background in that shot. Another interesting thing about that shot when they're crossing the gorge that I don't know if you guys noticed. I read it on Pop Apostle.
Mhm.
The fact that the containers that they're carrying are see-through containers for like the whole episode, but during scenes where they need to be in a green screen, like in that scene, they are white. Like they're
That makes
not
sense.
see-through, and it's probably because they switched them out so that it wouldn't, be all weird on the green screen.
Yep.
That's a
Yeah.
cool little detail, yeah. A really funny thing about this episode is the amount of time Chaka says Sarisa Taka.
How many did you count?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I did make a video where I put every time he says Sarisa Taka.
Yo, Sarisa Taka!
I can get a count at any point.
I'm
But yeah, that video
very
is
excited to see that.
hilarious. Yeah, that was one of the first Land of the Lost memes that I made. But so it's funny hearing him say it, but when you actually think about it, it's kind of interesting because that is that's the Pakuni's version of the word Sleestak. But we know the only reason why they're called Sleestak is from Peter Coing from Follow
Peter.
That Dinosaur. So that is like their version, and he says that they taught the Pakuni some words of English. So
Right.
either Sleestak was one of the things that they taught them, or kind of taught them to say, because they say it kind of weird, or he wrote it on the walls because he did write it on the walls, and then the Pakuni like read it, and like that's their version of saying it. But it's interesting because they have their own unique name for everything else, and so
but
that
not Sleestak.
right. So theoretically, that would lead me to believe that the Pakuni did have a name for the Sleestak before Peter Coing and Harry Potts came into the land. Like they used to have.
But he was using that,
Like they used to have
to
their
communicate
own
with the
version of it,
marshals.
but then they started using theirs because they were taught it.
So they could communicate with the humans.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that's just
Right.
an interesting bit of lore. That's also
It makes sense.
a thing that they drop really early on. This is episode 2. Follow That Dinosaur is episode 13.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
the thing that I'm referring to is the fact that the Beware of Sleestak, they put that on the wall, and you obviously know none of our crew wrote it there. So it immediately makes the audience be like,
Humans have been there before.
who wrote that? And
Right.
yeah, that also makes you confirm that humans have been there before, yeah. And but you don't get a concrete answer on that until episode 13, so that's really cool. Foreshadowing.
Yeah. It is neat.
Lots of good foreshadowing in this one. Gerrold, you done it again.
I believe this came from the official dictionary, but it might have been stated in one of the other discussions, when they take the episodes and they like talk over it.
Yeah. Commentary.
It might have been taken from one of those. Yeah. The commentaries, thank you. I don't know why that word wasn't coming to me. But I think at one point they established that the reason that the Pakuni sometimes can't say words like Wira and Ari and Surisataka and Marashara, etc., is because their vocal cords are not as developed as ours. So they're on the path of becoming,
Right.
communicating animals.
That
but
is interesting.
yeah,
That leads itself to our them being a pre-evolved human theory that we were talking about.
right. Here's another one that was really weird, and we have to talk about this. Sleestaks are in direct sunlight multiple
Bro,
times.
I was
in this
waiting for it.
episode.
I was wondering if I was gonna be the one that talked about it, or if you guys were gonna notice also. It's not a thing that really bothers you in the very first episode, because you don't
know the rules
you don't know
yet.
the rules yet, but like
Right.
they're in the sun. Yeah.
It's so funny though, because like later in that episode, they establish that they don't like light.
Right, because he uses the fire. Right, yeah. So it's a goof, but
Yeah.
it gets a pass.
Yeah.
It's the very first time we ever see them on screen is right after they walk away from the Beware of Sleestak sign, and in that scene it's daylight. And then the second time we see them, it's when they get Will and Holly get jumped by them outside the Lost City, and that scene is also completely bright outside, and they're not even like covering their eyes or anything. So yeah, it's funny. I think they're using the fact that you don't know the rules yet to their advantage, because either that or they didn't think of it. But it's hard to think that they didn't think of it, because like you said, they literally establish it in that episode that they don't like light.
Yeah.
And while we're on that subject of them not liking light, why did he, when he dropped the torch in, does it like make it super bright? Like, is there like is there flammable gas at the bottom of the pit? Is there like natural gas down there? And okay, well,
Yeah.
you know what? I just thought of this. I just put this together in my brain. This is a brand new theory right here. It would make sense if there was natural gas at the bottom of the pit, because what I just remembered is the fact that Will says,
Smells awful.
Oh my God, you're right.
If it smells like sulfur, like rotten eggs, then that's definitely flammable, and then bada boom, bada bing. All right, never mind. That one's not a goof. I like that.
Yo, how funny is that? We thought of that at the same time.
Facts. I literally
That's
just
hilarious.
put that together in my brain.
Me too. That's so funny. Great minds.
So yeah, probably is natural gas down there.
Why?
Clearly
do you
not
think that is?
not too much though. It has to still have some amount of oxygen, because obviously Rick is Rick is fine down there in the hole.
Yeah. Why do you guys think that is? Why
Could
do you
just
think that
be
implies?
could just be because it's that deep in the ground, or maybe it has something to do with the smoke. Maybe all of that smoke. Because that's the same smoke from The Longest Day. So maybe that smoke is the thing that's flammable. Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Then we have to ask ourselves, what is the smoke?
Right.
That I will write that down as a question for later. We're gonna have to discuss.
The doorway smoke and the Sleestak smoke is separate. Yeah.
I think so too, because do you think that the Sleestak gas that they use to communicate, and the Sleestak gas that they use to make you hallucinate who you love most, an album. Do you think that's connected? Do you think those are Sleestak gas? Do you think those are the same thing as what's in the pit?
That is an excellent question, yeah, because they're using it to their advantage in album.
Yep.
And then
So I would be
on that subject,
Mhm.
you know, Enoch when he shows them their fear, you know, yeah.
Yo. I just remembered. David Gerrold said what the God of the Pit was.
Oh, he
Um,
did?
I don't remember what episode of the commentaries it was, but he says it's an old lady.
I really
And
need to
she's-
get my hands on the commentaries because you know I
I
haven't.
need to watch those.
I have not listened to those before.
Somebody's got to, one of us has to record those and put them on the Google Doc. Those, I don't remember which one it was. I'm going to rewatch all of them. I'm going to rewatch all of them. I'm
You're
going to
like,
glean first much
you're like,
information.
I'm gonna find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah. 'Cause,
Um,
yeah. I definitely would want to know about that. You know, maybe you could find out and then bring it up in an episode like the whole. You know.
Yeah.
Where it
Yeah.
comes up again. Another thing that I feel like we should mention that I meant to say it earlier, but just the interesting fact that the Sleestak are, you know, there's only 3 costumes, so you never see more than 3 of them on screen at the same time, and the fact that the 3 people that play them are were NBA players, Dave Greenwood, Bill Laimbeer, and John Lambert.
Yeah.
Who were specifically chosen by Gerrold for their immense size. You know, he was like, let's get the tallest NBA players we can, and then put them on stilts in the form of the boots that they wear. You know,
and the heads.
their
The heads
their
make them taller
claw-
too.
Yeah, exactly. Their claws, which is their feet, and then like you said, also their heads and the spikes. So you end up with like a 7-foot creature that very menacing, very scary. I was scared of them as a child.
I was too. Were you, Ray?
I don't think I was scared of them, but there are some other things I think I was more scared of.
In general, Land of the Lost
Like-
just kind of
Yeah.
creeped me out as a kid, which is part of the reason why
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved it. Like all the
Me
scenes,
too.
all the scenes with Enoch, like the
Yeah.
entire episode of The Stranger is like holy shit. You know, like that really heavy stuff.
Land of the Lost has this bizarre vibe to it that no other show I've ever found does, which must come from the fact that I believe originally Land of the Lost was a story that was going to be used for a much more adult and intellectual show. This may be wrong. I don't know where I got this information.
They really didn't have there really wasn't a concrete story, you know, because I remember hearing the story from David Gerrold. It was Sid and Marty Krofft just had a picture book of like stuff cut out from magazines, like Jungle, Tarzan, Dinosaur, and then it was all in a picture book, and they gave it to David Gerrold, and they were like, "Can you make a story out of this?" So, and then that's how he came up with episode. And then that's how he wrote episodes 1 and 2, which is why I always say that episodes 1 and 2 should be taken as like a 2-parter, because you know they were wrote as one thing.
I could have sworn that I learned at some point that that Land of the Lost was meant to be like a more adult-oriented show, but I believe you, because like I can't think of where I got that.
Maybe perhaps before they came to David Gerrold, because I know David was like not the first person they went to, because the way that David got shown it was he was working on some Tarzan show.
Oh, really?
In the 70s, yeah, and for some reason there was some complication where he didn't want to work on it, or the writers didn't want him there anymore, and so the writer of that Tarzan thing pointed him in the direction of Sid and Marty Krofft. He was like, "Go visit them. They're having trouble with this show." And the reason why was because they had the picture book of the pictures, but they didn't have a story, and they had already sold the idea, you know, so to the network. So they had to come up with a story. So thank God that Gerrold was there.
Seriously.
And I got another good funny one for you. Did you notice that Holly like is like nearly falls and like face plants when Rick is trying to take her out of the thing. You know,
Nope.
when Rick comes to save them, yeah. Will cuts the thing open and he grabs her arm and tries to like pull her out really fast. And he's like, come on, let's go. He's like, we have to go fast because there's a Sleestak right there. But
Yeah.
her foot definitely gets caught in the net and she goes like she almost falls, but he catches her. And
Do you know what I would
and
be-
they keep acting. They're so good at not
Yeah.
at not stopping. They good actors.
You should. What I would really like to see from you is a compilation of
Yeah.
all of the
Yeah.
mishaps
I'm
on set.
I'm definitely gonna do it. Yeah, I have so
That'd be
many
so
I have so
cool.
many compilations in the works. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited for David's book, the novel to come out,
Facts.
and for him to explain all this.
I want to know. Tell us, Gerrold, please.
Yeah. But I hope. Well, I'm conflicted. I want it to come out before we're done doing like all the episodes of season 1 in this podcast.
It would be funny. It would be funny if the episode came out like if his book came out like tomorrow, because then
Yeah.
it would be like everything we said wrong.
Yeah.
Officially,
I mean-
this is true now. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that, we got some stuff right, but honestly, I don't care.
Right.
I just want to hear the end.
Exactly. I just want satisfaction.
I just want closure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's you know what's hilarious. It's the time that I got to talk to David Gerrold, the time that I joined his Zoom call meeting where we were discussing our favorite introduction to a movie, the favorite opening scene to a film, and my answer was Inglourious Bastards. I also said how much I like Willy Wonka, the original one, because the opening scene is just the song, the Candyman.
Yeah.
And that was just a joke, but David Gerrold's reply to that was he doesn't like Willy Wonka because he likes stories that make sense. His brain needs logic.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes.
And I'm like, yes, I agree. So can we have some logic, please? Can I know how this ends, please?
We have been waiting for 48 years for
Right.
something that will actually put this together.
Even though we actually haven't been. Imagine actually being like, there are people who have actually been waiting that long. There are people who watched the show air in the 70s and are still lifelong fans. I see them all the time in the Land of the Lost group chat. That's the majority of people that are in there, where us young Land of the Lost fans are the minority.
That's a good point. Have you met anyone else besides us who's like a fan or like knows about it? Who's our age, I mean?
Yeah, no, not really. Yeah, not at all.
Like my brother, like we watched it growing up, like my brother and I.
Yeah.
But he's not like a fan of it, but he just is like, oh yeah, like that's funny. I remember that stuff. Or he watched he rewatched it I think a couple years ago when he found it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But at least people know about it,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad that the Facebook group exists for all of the old fans and new fans, if there are any, to congregate. Yeah. But I'm kind of the same.
Okay.
I'm kind of the same way though, in that my brother and sister are like some of the only people I know that do watch the show also, because we watched it together as younger siblings. But yeah, it's a similar situation where they remember it and they're like, oh yeah, that show. But I am, have a Land of the Lost podcast.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, and I was just getting permission, to talk about this. But my mom and my uncle both grew up on Land of the Lost, and my uncle's like a huge fan. Like he has a portrait of that Sleestak portrait painting.
Yeah,
It's like all over on the internet. He's got one of the original copies of that.
That's awesome.
In his bathroom. He's got this like handmade latex mask. He's got the lunchbox. We have matching lunchboxes.
Oh, gee.
Anyways,
The original lunchbox
yeah.
from the 70s?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Not the
So
2000 whatever release where
Ooh,
it was
no.
the thing that they put the DVDs in, you know.
Yeah.
But it was made to look just like the one in the 70s, which is really cool packaging, really cool box.
Yeah. Well, we were looking. Well, okay, so he's like a huge fan. He's the one who introduced me to it. And we just got this news, right, that like finally they're gonna have an end to this. And we've both been saying for years that like all we want is the ending to Land of the Lost, right? Um, and and then a couple days later, we got the news that my uncle has like 2 months left. He's got stage 4 cancer, and they caught it too late. So I'm really hoping that at least the novel comes out, you know,
Right, yeah.
within the next 2 months. Like I'm not betting on it, but I'm really hoping, you know, because I know he'd enjoy that.
Yeah.
But David, if you're listening, get the novel out, dude. Like, don't review now.
Facts.
Yeah. That would be really nice. I'm hoping that it comes out sometime soon.
For sure, yeah. I hope
Yeah.
so too.
Yeah, so the ending, right? I can't be the only one who thought I thought as a kid there was other episodes past like what was it, Medicine Man?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Oh,
coming
God.
back to it, I was very surprised that was the last one. I thought there was
Yeah, no.
something past that.
Me too. I distinctly remember when I first watched them all on YouTube, and
Yeah.
I saw all of the ones that I hadn't seen on TV as reruns as a child. When I got to the last episode, I was like, oh, well, this must just be an incomplete playlist because it's on YouTube. And then I had to look up all the episodes, and then I got to the Wikipedia page, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very dissatisfying. That's what you hate. You hate to see shows that get cut and don't get to have
Really?
a nice ending. You know, the best shows deliver a really satisfying ending, even when they know they're going to have a short lifespan. You know, like Futurama is one of the best examples of how to end a show because they have had 4 different finales because Futurama has been canceled 4 different times. Like there are like 3 different episodes you can cite as the final episode, quote unquote, and then there's the one of the 4 like Futurama movies you can cite as the final episode. And in each of those 4 cases, it was wrote as if there was never going to be any more, because at the time there wasn't, because the show got canceled. And even now, the final conclusion that they wrote for Futurama is like the most final because it got canceled and it hasn't came back since 2013. But Futurama is coming back. Futurama is being revived. It's coming back in 2023 for like the 5th time it's being revived. So now that finale is no longer going to be the true finale, and they're going to have to make another finale, which is hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Futurama is one of my favorite things ever. Also,
This is a good show.
if you can't tell, yeah.
Yeah.
But getting back to the show in question.
Yeah, I do appreciate how Circle like gives us a very satisfying ending, and I completely think season 2 is it's up there with season 1, and there definitely wouldn't be the same show without it. But in the case that it was just one season, I mean I don't know how you could end a series better than that, you know?
That is true. Yeah, they did a very Futurama-esque move there by they weren't sure if there was going to be a second season, so they wrote the last episode.
It's so smart, yeah.
They wrote the last episode in the best way possible, where if there wasn't a second season, very satisfying conclusion. If there was a second season, it makes sense because those marshals went home, these marshals entered, you know? And that's why I love that timeline image that I found that I sent.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I know, isn't it? I found it online. Like I had never seen it before. I forgot. I was looking for something. I think I was looking for the map or something, and I found it online. And yeah, it's really good. And if you follow that trail, it's like if you follow that timeline, it's like
Mm-hmm.
Circle happens, and then all of the events of season 1 repeat themselves, except for Circle. You know.
I love how it like it has all the timelines, right? So it explains every like possible reality that could happen to them. Like they get stuck or they make it through
Right.
or they're in the what is it like the loop or they like keep repeating.
Yeah, and it even accounts for other branches. Like it has like split personality in there,
Hmm.
and
True.
yeah, we're talking about the timeline image that I sent into the Discord like a week ago. Yeah, really good timeline image that I found online. Shout out the person that made that. I'll have it in the description.
Yeah. Speaking of timeline stuff, at the beginning of this episode, they were making like brooms and stuff, like very basic appliances, and like I think Rick was like has a trap or something, or some kind of thing he was building. I can't believe in any way that they had built the what is that thing? The
The bully.
the pulley system and
Yeah.
basket like that leads me to believe that stuff was just there and then there were people living in the cave, you know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
After I thought about it, after we did the first episode review, I definitely am leaning towards that also because
Yeah.
the stick, I
Yeah.
can't get over the stick.
It's so weird that they never talk about that though.
They never talk about the stick. They use it as their
Let
pulley
me
system. I have a picture of the cave entrance from the theme song where I like circle it with a red, like I'm a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, it's great. Like, what is this?
Yeah, actually they have it in the soundstage too. Um
Oh, in the pictures of when they're
yeah.
building it.
So on the Land of Lost fandom, which used to be the wiki page,
Yeah.
I added like a lot of images to it, and one of them is a screenshot of if you just type in High Bluff Land of Lost, search that on Google, there's an image of Holly in the cave entrance, and the stick is just like there,
Yeah.
and it is actually like you can tell it's on the soundstage because it's like just a gray whatever like screen above it, but they went out of their way to put that stick there, so I don't
Facts.
know what that's even about.
Very, very mysterious. One of those questions that needs answering that nobody thought to ask.
If we ever have David on, that's when we got to talk about. I imagine.
I don't think he would be opposed to it. He seems very chill and very nice. If we caught him on a day where he wasn't busy, we'd probably have to rearrange our schedule. But I would do anything to be able to talk to him.
Yeah.
I'd wake up at 9 a.m. if that's what it took.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm still just happy that I got the chance to talk to him at all. I should really
Absolutely.
I should do that again. The Sunday night
Yeah.
movie chat. You guys should come too. It'd be fun.
That'd be really fun.
I think it's like Sundays at like 8 o'clock my time because he's on the West Coast. So it's 5 o'clock his
Yeah.
time, so 7 o'clock your
I
time.
might have to come next week because this Sunday I turn 18, so
Yeah.
I'm maybe pretty
Happy
busy.
birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Um,
A big one.
let's see.
Momentous occasion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Let's
yeah,
see.
the only other thing that
Let's
I
see.
had wrote down to talk about was the fact that in that ending scene, not the very ending scene, but the scene where Rick saves them, he shows it seems so real. He seems so concerned. Like Spencer Milligan is just a really good actor because he seems like so panicked about like where are we? What are these things attacking us? Let's get the hell
Yeah.
out of here. Like as he's saving them out of the thing, and
When he's not
Yeah.
being pushed to overact, he's a good actor.
right, yeah. and when he is being pushed to overact, you still love it because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still just wonderful.
Stop it, Enoch!
Yeah.
Stop it!
You're doing something to our minds.
Goosebumps every time. We love you, Spencer.
We do.
Speaking of Spencer, do you guys know about the about Searching for Spencer, the documentary that hasn't
It
come
never
out yet?
came out.
Yeah, it's like a legendary thing in the Facebook group chat. Everyone is constantly talking about that Searching for Spencer, which is when it's a thing where Wesley and Kathy got a camera and just like went to his house and like had a reunion with him, and because they hadn't seen him in like years, like decades.
Right.
So yeah, it's just a nice and reunion thing, but it's been talked about for years. They've been talking about it for years, and they've been and as recently as 1 year ago, in that interview that I always cite, Wesley says he talks about it. He's like, yeah, we got an interview Searching for Spencer. It's all done filming, and but yeah, it hasn't come out yet, and it's interesting.
Yeah. I'm really hoping it's we do get to see that someday. It would be very interesting.
And I think
And of course-
when they originally made it, it was kind of Searching for Spencer because it was like he hadn't made like any public appearances, But since then he has gone to like some cons and stuff and done some signings. So that's cool of him. I have my card that's signed by all three of them, which is like my prized possession in life.
That's so cool. That's really wild because like Spencer signing stuff specifically is incredibly rare.
Yeah, for sure. His signatures are harder to come by, and that to have something that's signed by all three of them, I love it.
Yeah. That's so cool.
But yeah, really good first episode. Really good second part to the first episode if you look at it like I do as a two-parter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you guys have any more to say?
I think the only thing about them that's really like they're like we've discussed this before. They're not like wonderful episodes, but they're good.
Right,
They
yeah.
establish, they do their job.
Yeah,
They really do.
tier wise, they're not anything super S tier or anything like that. But I don't think you could really ask for a better set of establishing episodes because it does such a good job at introducing you to all of your main cast of characters and at dropping hints of and foreshadowing for things that will come into play in the future, and just having things that are going to be staples of the show for the whole time, like the Morse code reflection thingy, stuff like that. Really, really good. Sets up a lot of the tropes for the episodes,
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, yes. As first episodes, as introductory to the series, they definitely serve their purpose and more.
I do think this one is the Sleestak God in particular though is definitely marginally better than the first one, than Chaka.
Sure. Yeah.
In my tier list, I have Chaka as at the bottom of all right tier. So it's like it's pretty much the definition of mid, but I have the Sleestak God at the very top of all right. Like it was borderline. It was either going to be at the very top of all right or at the very bottom of very good, and it went at the very top of all right. So yeah, and I think that's just because more exciting, with the enemy and whatnot, with the
absolutely.
Sleestak being more menacing. But I don't mean to hate on the first episode. We love the first episode. It's pretty good. We've been going for about an hour, so yeah, it's pretty. If you guys don't have any more closing statements,
I don't want to give you any more work.
Haha, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so either. Besides like maybe a few map and lore stuff.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
talk about
no,
it.
yeah, please, if you have any of those.
I only have two of them points here. So we know that the bridge, they hadn't crossed it before to get water. So we already discussed that.
Oh wait, and
'Cause,
that was something
yeah.
I forgot to say earlier. The fact that the scene makes sense when Will is like, "Oh, don't give him our water. That's all we have left." That actually makes sense because they went to get water and they never did, and then they still haven't by the end of the episode. But
I think that's
yeah, what were you
good,
saying?
like location-wise, so we know that they don't have to cross the bridge to get water.
Right.
Where they wouldn't normally do that.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons why I subscribe to putting the water hole on their side of High Bluff. Yeah, because and you would also think they would want to be close to a source of water because it makes sense.
And then the first mention of the Lost City is just Will just said,
I'm telling him about the Lost City, of course.
he just named it basically.
Right.
Right, and they just like accept that that's what it's called, right?
And that's that's interesting too because earlier Holly says
There may be a whole city.
so
Mhm.
they don't even like know it's a city yet, you know. But yeah, Will just kind of goes with that name. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Enoch never referred to it as Lost City, remember, right? He's like, Lost City? What is that?
Right.
But I
Because to
think
him it's not
City
lost.
of Altrucia.
So,
City of Altrucia.
yeah. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that that's not a way that like I ever would have described the Lost City as a city, you know, which is pretty interesting. They see it and they're like, oh, it's a city.
Right. Yeah.
Just like it's a big flat rock with 3 holes in it.
I would have been
Side.
I would have
don't
been
know
like
what you're talking
I would have
about.
been like, yeah, it's a hole in a mountain with some pillars.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. It's like it's a monument of some sort, but I wouldn't call it a city.
Yeah, that is interesting that they know that off the rip. Another
Yeah.
another mapping thing that I noticed. I don't think it was from this episode, but or maybe it was, I don't know, but there's some scene where they are at the Beware of Sleestak sign and they come in like from the side of wait hold on.
Yeah, I have that noted here
What
too.
episode is it this one then? Where they say
Yeah, they
where
come
where
in
they
from
say
the left.
they say, "See, we're not lost. That's where we started." And then
I'm not sure if that was this one, but I just
they
noted
point
that they
to-
came in from the
Yes.
side, yeah.
It is this one.
Yeah.
And it's
so
very
so
very
I
probable they
think-
just got lost, but I don't know.
So I think that means that the Beware of Sleestak sign is like over to the left,
Yeah.
relative to the main entrance. That is, you know. But I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, from the way they enter the scene, that makes sense. And then also, yeah, because that's about where they insinuate that the back entrance is for Enoch's Cave, which sort of implies that back entrance is similar to, you know, the ruined pillars in the forest where it says "Beware of Sleestak."
Yeah. Yeah, because they
So
definitely have confirmed that there's 3 entrances. There's definitely
yeah,
there's definitely the main one, and then there's one on the left and one on the right. But they don't use
Right.
use either of the ones that aren't the main ones until later, like maybe even season 2. But yeah, good talking.
productive episode.
Yeah, for sure. There was I had a lot to say about that. All my notes for that one were well, I guess it was only a little bit longer than the first. I had a lot to say about the first one too.
Yeah,
I don't know if we'll have as much to say about the next episode about Dopey. You know, it's a little bit of a
Dopey.
little bit of a slower, a little bit of a not as much lore in that one, but
Right.
but you never know. I love Dopey. I know you guys know I have a soft spot for Dopey. It's just a very cute episode. But yeah, but we'll get
It is.
We'll,
It
get,
is.
we'll get into that next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. I'll see you guys.
Awesome.
See ya.